It's official, everybody. That's right. The news we knew already, that Sea of Thieves, or rather some games, we didn't know the specific details, but we got news today. Sea of Thieves is going to PlayStation 5. It's going to be crossplay. Here is the PS5 reveal trailer right here that we're watching. And believe it or not, a lot of players are, not a lot of players, a lot of influencers, crazy influencers that we talked about before, the same ones that overreacted the first time around, are overreacting again. As if we didn't know that this was already the case, guys. As if this is a big surprise. We're going to talk about this in this video. We're also going to talk about what this means for Xbox going forward. What are the games that went multi-platform? And how I think it's a good thing. I think it's a smart strategic move. I really do. I think that the influencers that are out there whining literally have an unhealthy relationship with Xbox. They have an unhealthy relationship with themselves. They have an unhealthy relationship with social media. I think a lot of them are projecting their own emotions into this thing, and I just think that they're wrong. So let's talk about it. Before we do, though, guys, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, this is the type of content we cover every single day. If you're tired of the fanboys. So first of all, I'm an Xbox fanboy. I'm not a toxic fanboy. I've come to realize this about these social media influencers that are Xbox fanboys, quote unquote. And the same exists for any platform, insert device, fanboy, toxic fanboy. The difference between a fanboy, just a fan of a product, or just a fan of an ecosystem, just a fan of games, versus toxic fanboyism is they're tribal. I think a lot of the backlash here is that is their hatred for PlayStation. They're not covering Xbox because they love Xbox. They're covering Xbox because they hate PlayStation. That's retarded. That's stupid. If you're tired of that, subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Also, we did just drop this, our memberships. If you support this kind of logical approach to Xbox, consider becoming a member and support us. You get some loyalty badges and some custom emotes. We will be beginning to do live streams here over the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. But let's just jump into it. So let's jump back to the video unveiling of Sea of Thieves. Now, there's a few games coming to PlayStation. It's not just Sea of Thieves. And also Nintendo Switch, and we learned this all today. So it's Grounded and Pentiment going to Nintendo Switch and the PS5, as well as, Pentiment. I always mispronounce that. As well as Hi-Fi Rush heading to PlayStation 5. We also know that Sea of Thieves will be hitting Sony's console on April 30th, based on this trailer here. So first of all, let's go Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush. Those are the two smaller games that Phil Spencer and Matt Booty and Sarah Bond were talking about. Have no problem. Makes complete sense. Makes strategic sense for me. And then we have Grounded and Sea of Thieves. Both live as service games. Makes complete sense to me. Cross-platform makes sense. This is only going to positively affect those games for sure. Now, here's the thing. Each of those games dropped day one on Game Pass. Once again, zero problem with this. It's basically a timed exclusive model. It's the next iteration of timed exclusive models. It also makes sense to have these games in as many places as possible. So let's take a look at some of the reactions here and comment on them, because again, the same people who were losing their stuff the first time, they're losing their shit again. And it's ridiculous. So here's Tim Dog. He really overreacted the first time around. I'm sure he's a good dude overall, but it does seem like projection. In fact, I commented on this post. Here's what he said. He said, I see hysteria in Xbox community today. Where? What community? I'm not hysterical. I think this is a really smart strategic move. Again, this after doing victory runs over a closed podcast that basically confirmed they are going third party. This is the type of up and down mentality that I'm so glad I'm not a part of, trying to listen to and deal with. It will never end. Here was my response, because I don't get this. Sorry you feel this way, but this seems like projection. I've never felt the up and down ride you're speaking of, and I've been on Xbox since day one. And I think that's the thing. They've internalized their identity with Xbox so that if something happens which is very unhealthy, by the way. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a mental health expert. So this is just my observations. But they're tied in such an unhealthy way. Their entire identity is Xbox, so that if Xbox does something that they disagree with, they lose it. And it's fascinating. So we had tons and tons of tweets just like this today. Here's my other main man, Peter Ovo, says, I will be buying Xbox systems on a case-by-case basis from now on. Right now, I do not see the case for buying the next Xbox console. I do. It's the marquee place to play Game Pass games. I actually screenshotted this, and here was my tweet. Ever notice these guys never say they won't be subbing to Game Pass? Like, they never say, everybody's like, I'm never going to buy an Xbox again. I'm not going to buy an Xbox console. I never see them saying, I'm not subbing to Game Pass. And that's the point. The value of Game Pass is undeniable. It's absolutely undeniable. I have many friends who have purchased Game Pass that do not own an Xbox. That's the point. Again, I think a lot of this, these are just two examples. There is many examples out there, but I think a lot of their anger here, their animosity towards this decision has less to do with it being a smart strategic move. They're not thinking about it in those terms, and has less to do with their love of Xbox and more to do with their hatred of PlayStation. PlayStation to them is the enemy. They've internalized it that way. They've built it up in their minds that way. And it's unfortunate, but that's where we're at. So I do have some questions here that I thought we go over. What does Xbox's decision to enable crossplay for Sea of Thieves on PS5 tell us about the future of gaming? The future of gaming is here, and Xbox is leading the way. I've said it before on this channel. I say it almost every video. The next 5 years in gaming is going to look completely different than the last 5 years of gaming. Xbox is leading the way here in this monumental shift in gaming that we're going through. And this is what that shift looks like. This is what that monumental shift looks like. Changes are here. And I think the future of gaming is a lot more of this. Cross-platform gaming. I mean, you see it with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy Online is coming to Xbox. The open beta started today. I'm downloading as we speak so I can jump in and play it. And it is cross-platform with PC and PS5 and anywhere you can play that game. And that is the future of gaming. It just makes sense. Now you could argue and say, well, wait a minute. Final Fantasy Online is not a first-party game, but it's a traditional PlayStation exclusive. And that's the difference. And that's where Xbox is leading the way. Yeah, certain first-party titles, that makes sense. Sea of Thieves totally makes sense, by the way, because that game thrives the more people are playing it. Just like Destiny would make sense too, being everywhere, which, by the way, PlayStation owns. And guess what? Is everywhere. I think where it makes sense, it benefits Xbox. It benefits Game Pass. It benefits Microsoft. It benefits the IP that is Sea of Thieves. And it's going to be huge. And I can't wait for it. What's also interesting is nobody has a problem. None of these people have a problem with, whether you're on the PS5 side or the Xbox side, nobody has a problem with it being on PC, which shows me it's less about being quote unquote multi-platform and it's more about your hatred for PlayStation. That's it. And that's an unhealthy place to be, bro. But what does this say about the future of gaming? To get back to the question, it says everything. This is the future of gaming. Timed exclusives going forward. We're less concerned about the hardware, more concerned about the ecosystem software. Now, the hardware will exist to complement the software. Where's the best place going to be to play Game Pass? They've already said it. It will be on the Xbox. Hands down. That's the right way to do it. That's the future. That's the future, baby. And I'm here for it. Number 2, how might this cross-platform initiative affect Xbox's relationship with its competitors and the broader gaming industry? I think it's forcing, we've already seen it. PlayStation has come out and said they are looking at doing something similar. And a lot of people are saying, well, they never said other consoles. Well, that's fine. It's inevitable. They also never said they'd have a subscription service. That's inevitable. They also never said that they'd be in cloud, and that's inevitable too. And they went out and are renting servers from Microsoft as a result. This is the future, guys. The future is shifting. We're seeing it. The old model no longer exists, and it's no longer viable. And it's not viable because the way we purchase and interact with games is different than it was before. Again, Phil Spencer laid this out. Xbox laid this out, I think, rather convincingly in the documents from the Activision Blizzard acquisition, where he said that big box stores, publishers used to have access to big box stores. As a developer, you needed that access, so you went to big publishers to publish your game. That's no longer how people consume their media. We're no longer going to big box stores to buy our media. We're doing it straight from the console itself. We're doing it all digital. So in absence of that, a service like Game Pass fills that void, fills that ability of these big publishers to publish big AAA games, but also to take a risk on smaller titles where they couldn't before because of the cost of the AAA titles. And that's the effect. I think the effect here is going to be, Xbox has already done it, and I think Phil Spencer's done a great job of seeding these relationships. I don't think that we would be getting Final Fantasy Online if it were not for Phil Spencer. I don't think that we'd be getting other Square Enix titles to Xbox and Game Pass if it were not for Phil Spencer creating and developing those relationships. And I think those relationships are only going to grow in the future. Last question I have that I wrote down: in what ways could Xbox further leverage crossplay to enhance gaming experiences and community engagement? I think every game should be cross-platform and cross-play and cross-save. Where obviously it makes sense. Obviously a game like Halo, it's probably not going anywhere. Marquee titles, probably not going over to like a PlayStation, but it's going to be on PC and the PC Game Pass. And that's the point. But cross-play, cross-progression, cross-save is the future as well. We're slowly getting there. And cloud gaming is only going to increase that, and Xbox Game Pass is only going to increase that, in my opinion. What do you guys think, though? Where am I wrong? Am I miscalculating these like crazy... I'm going to call them crazy takes by Xbox influencers. Am I wrong about them? Does it not feel like projection? Does it not feel like they were bros just got broken up with? Their hearts crushed by lovers? Right? It's out of control, and I just disagree with it vehemently. I think this is a smart strategic move, and it feels like what's driving their passion here is a hatred for the other guys rather than a love for gaming altogether. Would love to know what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments below. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.